A big thank you to Desview, who have sent me their new R6 monitor. So let's start off and take a quick look at what you get in the box. We have the unit itself, a cold shoe mount, a micro HDMI cable, a mini HDMI cable, a cleaning cloth, and a little Allen key for adjusting the cold shoe mount. Oh, and they also supply an SD card with the monitor for uploading LUTs and for making firmware updates. Okay, so running through the key features of this monitor, which certainly at least are the features that stand out more to me as a user. It's 5.5 inches in size, which seems fairly standard for monitors like this. The big hook of this monitor is that it pumps out a whopping 2800 nits, which means you're going to be able to film out in broad daylight and still be able to see the monitor, which is going to be music to your ears if you're using, something like what I've been using for years, the A6500, which the monitor on that is pants. When you're in bright daylight, you can barely see it. You all know probably what I mean. When you're filming in 4K, it dims down, you can barely see a thing. It's like you're working blind. So to have a monitor this bright is amazing compared to what you're going to be used to from using those kind of Sony cameras. That obviously is still going to be welcome if you use any other cameras. Just to be able to see what you're filming in broad daylight is going to be a massive help regardless of whatever camera you've got. Another big one for me, which I know is nothing new, but you can load your own LUTs onto this monitor, which I'm finding super helpful. For me, creatively, I'm finding this one of the best features of this monitor because it's enabling me to see in real time how my footage is going to look after I've graded it as I'm filming it, which is incredible. Really loving that. There's also lots of really helpful exposure assistance features on this monitor as well. Things like waveforms, vector scopes, false color, and zebras can all be viewed in real time on the monitor to make sure that you're getting your exposure bang on. The monitor is 100% operated via the touchscreen. In fact, I think the only button on the monitor is the power button on the top of the unit, but it's very simple and intuitive to work your way around the menus. With its touchscreen abilities, you can also pinch to zoom on this monitor, which is super helpful for when you're trying to get, critical focus on whatever it might be, a product, a person. You can just pinch to zoom in and you know that you're going to be in focus. The monitor also has focus peaking, which you can set different levels to the amount of peaking that shows. You can also change the color of the focus peaking, which is again another handy feature to have. You can even just use an up and down gesture on the left-hand side of the screen, which will control the brightness of the monitor. If you gesture horizontally on the right-hand side of the screen, that will also control your volume. Because this monitor can go so bright, it's actually also got its own inbuilt cooling system, which you can control. So you can control the fan within the monitor to be on a very low setting or a high setting. And in fact, I'll give you a quick little demo of if and what you can hear whilst you're using it if you've got an on-camera microphone plugged in. The unit can conveniently be run on Sony MPF style batteries or E6 batteries. You can also, if you want, power it via the DC input on the side there. There's also an 8-volt DC output, which is super handy to have because you can charge up your camera whilst you're filming. Whilst you're on the subject of connections, just a quick look around the outside of the unit. Like I was saying, on the top here you've got the power button. On the side here we've got HDMI out, HDMI in, and the DC power supply in. Moving to the bottom of the unit, you've got the 8-volt DC power output. You've got a headphone jack there so you can monitor your audio. You've got the slot there for the SD cards so you can load your LUTs and do any firmware updates, as well as the 1/4" thread obviously. And on the last side there's another 1/4" thread there just in case you wanted to mount it differently if you was running it on a gimbal or anything like that. So you've got a couple of mounting options there. Priced at $280 US, and weirdly 280 quid in the UK still. I'd say that Desview have positioned this fairly well in the marketplace because I can't really find anything out there that's the same brightness with the same kind of features for the same cost. There's a few that's come close. I've had a little look around. I've got a few here, just excuse me while I look away, but there's the AMPDT C7, which is 2200 nits. That's 270 quid. Similar price, but not quite as bright. There's the AMPDT C6, which is £280, and that's closer. That's 2600 nits, but again, it's not quite there. So, like I say, I can't really find anything that's this bright for the same cost. So I just thought I'd make this section of the video just to show you guys how this monitor behaves when you're using it with one of the Sony mirrorless cameras. And obviously I can only test it on 2 Sony mirrorless cameras because that's all I've got. But I'm going to show you how it works on the 6600 and how it works on the 6500. Little spoiler, I believe that the face detection doesn't work when you plug it into a 6500, and I believe like the 6300, possibly the 6400 as well. It's a little issue that I believe that they've fixed in the 6600. It's one of the reasons that I upgraded as well. So, first example, at the moment we're shooting in 4K, 25 frames a second. And as you can see, I've got the little eye autofocus box showing up there on Tia's eye. I know this isn't the best example to show you guys, but hopefully it will help. So yeah, we've got the eye autofocus is working there, and we can see both the screens there. Now this is what happens when I hit record. The camera screen turns blank. You can still see your menu items there, but that turns blank. But I can confirm that, you know, it's still working. It looks like the eye autofocus, certainly the face autofocus is still working. I've got a couple of items down here. I've just got a bit of Lego and a tape measure there just to test. I know you guys aren't going to be able to see this particularly well, but I can confirm that the autofocus is working and it's being pretty snappy. Another weird thing I've found is that although the screen is blank down here, I can still, although I'm kind of guessing it a little bit, I can still tap to focus. So I can still go from the car here to the back to the tape measure, and it's a bit of guesswork, but it is working. I've got a feeling, I've been reading up on the Sony website, and I believe that, I think maybe if you're shooting in NTSC 24 frames a second, I think this monitor will still work. That's not confirmed. If you guys have, or anyone out there has got a 6600, is using it with an external monitor, and you're getting the monitor to work still down there, it would be great. Let us know, obviously, but I'm in the UK here, so I just shoot in 25, 50 and 100 frames a second. So yeah, just flicking this over to my number 2 setting, which is 1080, 100 frames a second, and I'll just show you how it behaves on that setting, which weirdly now we've got completely no screen down there, although we do up here. It's weird, you know, we can now see all the menu items from the Sony camera. Again, although this screen has turned blank, the autofocus is still working. There is no eye or face detection when you're using a higher frame rate on the Sony cameras anyway, regardless of whether you're using an external monitor or not. And so again, when I hit record, nothing really changes, to be honest. The autofocus is still working. It's literally just mimicking what you would be seeing down here. So now we'll just flick over to the A6500. And kind of, as I suspected, the face detection is now not working. By the way, this is again in 4K, 25 frames a second, which normally we'd just have face detection working, not eye autofocus in video, because that's only on the 6600. When we hit record, same as the 6600, this monitor is turning blank, although we can still see the menu items there. The autofocus is still working. And again, the touchscreen autofocus is working, although again, it's a bit of guesswork. Moving over to 100 frames a second in 1080 for our slow motion stuff, which again, on this camera, there is no face detection when on that setting, but I can confirm again that it's, you know, autofocus is all working correctly. When we hit record, again, same deal as the 6600. We've still got a blank screen down here, but we've got all the items displaying up on the external monitor, which concludes this little mini test, which I hope came in useful. So final thoughts on this monitor. I genuinely think it's a brilliant little product. I know I'm not like the biggest YouTuber or anything, you know, but I've been now getting a few emails off of companies that want to send me the odd bits and bobs here and there for me to do reviews on, but I'll never just sort of accept them willy-nilly, you know. I only really want to take products on that I think I'm actually going to use, that I think are going to be any good, that I think you guys might be interested in. And I've always wanted an external monitor, but you know, I'd always look up the reviews of those more budget AMPDT ones, all that kind of stuff, and they'd say how they still weren't all that bright, to be honest. So I always kind of put off getting one, which is why when Desview contacted me with this, and it was a 2800 nits, had the feature list that it's got, I was proper excited about getting it. I do love the monitor. It really is an awesome little bit of kit. For me, the standout features, like I say, are obviously the brightness of the monitor. The fact that I can load my LUTs onto it, I'm finding super helpful, like I mentioned earlier, but that really is super helpful. And I'm finding it creatively far easier for me to be able to see what my finished article is going to look like as I'm filming it. It even just looks more cinematic on the monitor, which helps. So I'm really loving that. I think it's priced decently. So would I recommend it to you guys? Of course I would. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you're not already subscribed, please think about doing that and giving the video a like. That'd be amazing. And I'll see you again in the next one. Cheers.